And it's an honor now to sign this incredible bill and get our country working again.
President Trump brings the government shutdown to a screeching halt after the House approved a resolution to turn the lights back on.
On this vote, the yeas are 222, the nays are 209. The bill is passed. The motion is adopted.
I'm Georgia Howe with Daily Wire Executive Editor John Bickley. It's Thursday, November 13th, and this is Morning Wire.
The DOJ is investigating after riots surrounding a TPUSA event turned violent.
What we have here is a terrorist organization allowed to run wild in an American city, on an American campus, funded by taxpayers.
And a standoff in the Caribbean is brewing as Venezuela mobilizes its troops and the U.S. sends its biggest warship to the region.
Thanks for waking up with Morning Wire. Stay tuned. We have the news you need to know.
Consistency is everything when it comes to your health, but life gets busy, and honestly, remembering to reorder supplements every month, that's just one more thing on your already packed to-do list. That's why I became a Balance of Nature preferred customer, and here's why it's a total game changer. Your supplements show up like clockwork every 28 days right to your doorstep. No remembering to reorder, no running out, it just happens automatically. And here's the kicker. You're getting the lowest price Balance of Nature offers every single time. No hunting for deals, no promo codes, no stress. Plus, shipping is totally free every month. But what really sold me is you get your own personal health coach. Someone who actually checks in, cheers you on, and helps you stay on track with your goals. The easiest routines are the ones you don't have to think about. You handle life, Balance of Nature handles the rest. Right now, you can become a preferred customer and lock in wholesale pricing with free shipping every month. Head over to balanceofnature.com and make consistency automatic. Go to balanceofnature.com and use promo code WIRE for 35% off your first order as a preferred customer, plus get a free bottle of fiber and spice. That's balanceofnature.com, promo code WIRE.
The longest government shutdown in history finally came to a close on Wednesday.
Daily Wire political reporter Cameron Arcand has more. Hey, Cameron. So we hoped that we wouldn't be reporting on a shutdown today. We're not. We're talking about the end of the shutdown, so that's some progress there. So how did this finally end yesterday?
We basically saw the House vote on the legislation to continue funding the government through the end of January. This is after 8 Senate Democrats sided with the Republicans the other day to break the filibuster and then go ahead and vote on that continuing resolution to continue to fund the federal government. After over 40 days, we saw impacts all across the country, whether it was flights to food stamps. Americans really felt this. And now there is the light at the end of the tunnel with this, with the House coming together and voting to fund the government once again.
Right, and despite all the travel complications, enough of the Congress made it to actually vote. So what comes next in this process?
The next thing is, obviously, the debate is going to very quickly switch over to health care, Obamacare subsidies. This was something that the Democrats were using as a rhetorical tool to not fund the government for the past 40 days. And so when they went and voted to reopen the government over the weekend, part of that deal was we will bring that debate back in December on the Senate side. Now, there is a lot up in the air when it comes to that right now. On the House side, House Democrats like Hakeem Jeffries have proposed a 3-year continuation of those subsidies. Now, that's the Republican majority House. There's a whole different set of calculus. There's a lot we don't know about the continuation of those subsidies. Now, keep in mind, the argument from a lot of Republicans and the opponents of this who didn't back the Affordable Care Act from the start was the fact that, hey, maybe this program wasn't sustainable to begin with.
Now, as we've documented, this was a grueling battle over 40 days and really high political stakes for both parties. Republicans really coming out with the victory here. What are we seeing in terms of the response from both parties on the Hill?
Yeah, so obviously we've had Republicans very pleased with this outcome right now, but some Democrats, while some did vote to reopen the government, others are not so pleased. Of course, Speaker Johnson and other Republicans are touting this as a victory. Let's hear what the Republicans have to say on that.
I'm really sad that it took us so long to get here. There was so much pain that had to be endured to get to this point. Voters are going to remember which political party played games with their lives. They're going to remember that they did this for their own selfish purposes so that they could look tough to the radical elements of their base, and real people suffered because of that game. So now that we've got the lights back on, we've got the government reopened.
And of course, President Trump, who has to have his signature on this spending bill, had his own thoughts on the end of the shutdown as well.
This was a no-brainer. This was an easy extension. But they didn't want to do it the easy way. They had to do it the hard way. And they look very bad, the Democrats do. They deprived more than 1 million government workers from their paychecks and cut off food stamp benefits for millions and millions more Americans in need. They caused tens of thousands of federal contractors and small businesses to go unpaid, and the total effect of the damage their antics caused will take weeks and probably months to really calculate accurately.
Obviously, a very long chapter coming to a close here. I mean, we saw flight cuts, people at risk of losing food stamps, that being held up in court. We really saw those drawn-out impacts of the federal government simply not being able to keep funded.
Yeah, and particularly with the flights and the holiday season coming, this couldn't have come soon enough. Thank you so much for reporting for us.
Thank you.
Hey guys, producer Brandon here. My dogs are crazy, literally. They're huskies. It's like I have a whole sled dog team in my living room. And they like human food, typically not dog food. But wanting the absolute best for my dogs, I switched over to Ollie. They offer fresh, protein-packed meals made with real, human-grade ingredients, a win for my dog's health, and they offer 5 tasty recipes, all slow-cooked for top nutrition, a win for my dog's happiness. What really sets them apart is how they customize everything for your specific pup, from portion sizes based on your dog's needs to mess-free packaging that keeps your fridge from smelling like a kennel. One of my dogs, Hunter, used to wait around the dinner table, being a beggar, waiting to see what scraps he might score. No longer. He's absolutely stoked on Ollie. Your dog's well-being starts with their food, and that's why Ollie delivers fresh, human-grade food that your dog will love. Head over to ollie.com/wire, tell them all about your dog, and use code WIRE to get 60% off your welcome kit when you subscribe today. Plus, they offer a happiness guarantee on your first box, so if you're not completely satisfied, you'll get your money back. That's ollie.com/wire and enter code WIRE to get 60% off your first box.
The DOJ is investigating a bloody protest outside of a Turning Point USA event at UC Berkeley this week.
Daily Wire senior editor Cabot Phillips is here now with the details. So first off, Cabot, welcome back.
It's good to have my voice back, at least partially.
So tell us what happened at Berkeley this week.
So Turning Point USA has understandably gotten a lot more attention over the last few months since Charlie Kirk, the group's founder, was assassinated. Now, in the wake of that tragedy, rather than pull back, Turning Point has gone all in, bringing conservative speakers to college campuses and, in their words, picking up Charlie's microphone to continue his work and also his speaking tour. And while a number of those events have faced significant protest, thanks to increased security, most have been peaceful. But during the final stop of the Turning Point tour this week at Cal Berkeley, things unfortunately turned violent. In the hours leading up to the event, hundreds of black-clad protesters descended on the campus, hurling insults and threats at conservative students who were attending the event and mocking Charlie Kirk's murder. Here's one group chanting, "F your dead homie," in obvious reference to Kirk.
You're dead, homie! You're dead, homie! You're dead, homie!
Other chants throughout the night included, quote, "When fascists come and cause a wreck, they get a bullet in the neck." At one point, a group of protesters attempted to rob a man of his necklace and then proceeded to beat him up when he attempted to stop them. As the victim, who was briefly detained by police himself, stands up, you can see on video here he's dripping blood from his face. Some in the crowd began to taunt him, saying, "White boy, you're bleeding."
Police! Break it off! Hey, white boy! Break it off! You're bleeding, Yep. Hey, white boy! You're bleeding, white boy! Hey, white boy! White boy! You're bleeding! Break it off!
As the evening progressed, hundreds more demonstrators showed up, and the protest then devolved into an all-out riot. Turning Point staffers say that rioters set off smoke bombs and tear gas outside the venue and then hurled fireworks and glass bottles at those trying to get in. That included a number of parents carrying small children. And then as the event ended, large groups of rioters then blocked exits and hurled even more threats at those leaving.
Now, this chaos reached the level at which the FBI is stepping in, correct?
Right. Attorney General Pam Bondi says the FBI's Joint Terrorism Task Force will be investigating specifically Antifa's role in, quote, orchestrating acts of political violence, and they're also going to be seeking out the identities of specific agitators. The Justice Department also sent a letter to the University of California Board of Regents notifying them that an investigation had been opened into their handling of the riot. They also ordered them to preserve all internal records regarding security preparations ahead of time. Here's the DOJ's Assistant Attorney General for Civil Rights, Harmeet Dillon, on CNN.
There was a sold-out crowd of over 2,000 tickets for this event with Rob Schneider, the comedian. And in fact, only 1,000 people were allowed to enter. There were shenanigans with the ticketing, but a lot of people didn't come because of what we call the heckler's veto, the violent mob allowed to fester outside.
Now, you yourself have spoken at a handful of Turning Point events, and you've seen some of this firsthand. What have you seen?
Yeah, I've spoken at a dozen or so Turning Point events since Charlie's murder. And while I haven't faced this sort of rioting, there has definitely been plenty of pushback. A number of times there have been students attempting to shout me down before being removed by police. And then at the University of Iowa, there was a transgender protester who flipped over a table that was advertising my speech. Those watching the show can see that video here. And then it's worth noting that same student did the exact same thing ahead of a separate Turning Point event the next week. Thankfully, they were arrested and have been charged. And it's worth noting, it's not just protesters. There's also been administrative pushback that I've seen. At the University of Maryland, for example, school officials said that my event could only go forward if the Turning Point chapter there agreed to fund outside security. That was because the school deemed my speech as controversial and said there was potential for pushback from the left. Now, Harmeet Dillon from the DOJ again weighed in there, calling it a potential First Amendment violation and warning that the school was essentially punishing conservatives for potential threats from the left. But I got to say, through it all, there's just been this shift that I've seen among conservative students on campus. Since Charlie's death, there is just a palpable determination in the room that was not there before. The crowds are bigger and more enthusiastic than they've ever been. And about half of the students I now meet said that they have never been to a political event before and that Charlie's murder made them want to now get involved.
Well, definitely a change of temperature on campuses for sure lately. Cabot, thanks for reporting.
Absolutely.
Venezuela says it's launched a massive mobilization of its armed forces as the United States' largest aircraft carrier arrives in the region.
Here to talk about the tensions between Caracas and Washington is Daily Wire reporter Tim Pierce. So, Tim, there's been a major U.S. military buildup in the Caribbean, and now it looks like Maduro has responded. What does this response look like?
Right. As John mentioned, Maduro's defense minister on Tuesday announced a military buildup in Venezuela to counter what he called the imperialist threat from the U.S. That buildup included military exercises yesterday that reportedly involved around 200,000 troops. And there have been reports that the military has prepped anti-aircraft systems across Venezuela in case Trump decides to order land strikes like he's teased a few times now.
Now, regarding the U.S. sending in some very valuable resources, what's the goal? Is the goal land invasion, just drug boat attacks in the sea? What are they planning to do?
Probably something in between. Drug traffickers have been the primary targets of the administration. U.S. forces have blown up about 20 boats and subs so far that officials have said were carrying illegal drugs such as cocaine and fentanyl. And the administration has continued to hammer that point. Here's War Secretary Pete Hegseth yesterday.
I mean, if you're trafficking drugs to poison the American people, and we know you're from a designated terrorist organization, you're a foreign terrorist and a trafficker, we will find you and we will kill you. No one is better at tracking and networking and mapping and hunting than the American military.
But now with the addition of the United States' largest and most advanced warship, the USS Gerald R. Ford, there's probably something more at play. President Trump has been coy about saying exactly what, though. Here he was on CBS News earlier this month.
Why do we need an aircraft carrier and strike group outside?
It's got to be somewhere.
Okay.
It's a big one.
The administration has made clear that it sees dictator Nicolas Maduro as an illegitimate ruler and it wants him out. It's called him a drug lord and a criminal and indicted him on drug charges. And it's also upped his bounty to $50 million.
Now, presumably, Caracas is also in discussions with the United States. Do we know anything about the diplomacy going on?
Yeah, well, they were, but the New York Times reported last month that the diplomatic relationships between the capitals has basically broken down. They broke down over Maduro's refusal to vacate his leadership position. For a long time, Caracas has offered the United States a majority stake in its oil and other mineral wealth. Part of that agreement would have been that Caracas would have distanced itself from powers hostile to the United States, such as China, Russia, and Iran. But the U.S. walked away because it could not get what it really wanted, which is Maduro to step down.
So what are we expecting to see next? We've heard some comparisons between this situation now and the situation in Panama in 1989. Is that an accurate comparison?
In some ways, yes, and in other ways, no. There are a few similarities between Venezuela today and Panama then. A dictator in charge accused by the United States of trafficking deadly drugs. But there are a lot of key differences as well. Maybe the most obvious is that Venezuela is a much larger country than Panama is, and it has a larger military, and Maduro is protected by special forces from Cuba. Venezuela also has powerful allies, such as Russia, which has promised to step in the case of a U.S. land invasion. Also in 1989, the United States went into Panama with about 27,000 troops. But even with the addition of the Gerald R. Ford in the Caribbean Sea, the U.S. military buildup there is only around 15,000 troops so far.
Well, 15,000 is still quite a few. Tim, thanks for reporting.
Thanks for having me on.
Thanks for waking up with us. And if you're listening to the show, you can also watch us now for free on Daily Wire Plus. We'll be back this evening with more news you need to know.
We have fewer than 2,000 Daily Wire lifetime memberships remaining.
Turns out having all access benefits for life with no renewals is something everyone appears to want. So here are your options.
You could buy one while they're still available. Keep in mind they are $1,500, so this is worth a lot.
Or you could win mine.
Or you could win mine. Both John and I are giving away a free one. And it's ridiculously easy to enter to win.
Download the free Daily Wire Plus app in the App Store, open it, and tap follow under
John and my picture. That's it.
That's it. You're entered.
You are entered after you follow us. And if we choose you, we're going to be calling you to give away our personal membership.
But before any of that happens, you need to download the Daily Wire Plus app
and follow John and I in it
to enter to win.
And that's all it takes.